What is going on, guys? It is John here for you, and I'm here with my buddy Joe Mills from the Joe Mills channel.
What's up?
And you guys might recognize these mowers if you watched our standard mower comparison video. I will put a link either up in the corner right here or down below in the description. You can click on that anytime. Go over and check out that mower comparison video. See which one of these mowers Joe and I would both like to take home. But that's not what we're talking about right now. Some of you may have come from that video and want to learn more about Kohler versus Kawasaki engines and carbureted versus EFI. So for those of you who don't know, this is a Kawasaki FX 730V 23.5 horsepower engine. This is one of the more common V-twin engines that Kawasaki uses, and it is in the FX series, which is their carbureted commercial grade engine. It's pretty much the top of the line engine you can get from Kawasaki in carbureted form. This does have a 2-barrel carburetor on it. Hopefully you guys can see it down there, right there. And you got the Donaldson air filter, you know, like most do, and all that kind of stuff. Metal shroud, metal cover, all that. Versus the Skag over here has got one of Kohler's finest. This is the Kohler Command Series, Command Pro, 25 horsepower EFI. Now this engine is a little bigger than the Kawasaki. This is a 747cc versus 730cc. That makes up the difference between the 25 horsepower versus the Kawasaki being only 23.5. Now some other differences right off the bat. Obviously this is the fuel injected version, so you have your fuel pumps down here and your extra fuel filters, and this one does have an oil cooler on it, which is really nice. You guys can see the throttle body right there. There's no fuel that goes in there. Throttle body there, and I believe that is your injector right there. I'm not super familiar with these EFI engines. I believe that's your injector going in there. And you have an O2 sensor here in the muffler that senses, you know how much air-fuel mixture this computer have to put in. So, start over with the Kawasaki. Things that I like about it. First of all is simplicity. The Kawasaki engine here is extremely simple with the carburetor. The carburetors have been around for 100 years, and as long as you know what you're doing tuning it, you really can't go wrong with it. So for those of you that have been subscribed to my channel for a while, you know that I've got a John Deere Z930M that has this exact engine in there, and I chose it over the EFI version simply because I like the simplicity and the ease of repairing it. So, we'll come around here, like I said, metal shroud. This does have some nice clean out ports up top, and I've seen Kawasaki engines that have run for thousands of hours without anything more than regular maintenance, meaning oil changes, filter changes, adjusting the valves, things like that. Something else to note is that on the Kawasaki engine, this has solid valve lifters. So down in the engine that run on the camshaft, you have a solid lifter. That means that in the cylinder head right here, under that valve cover right down there, you've got adjustments that you need to make on your rocker arms in order to keep the valves in check, and they need to do that. I think it's every 500 or 1,000 hours. Don't quote me on it, but that's, I believe, what the interval is for that. Another thing here you can see is a little hard to get to on this right stander, but you've got your dipstick right there, and your oil filter is right down below it, so it's all on the same side, easy to get to. Now, over here on the Kohler, here's that Delphi or Delphi, however you want to pronounce it. That's the computer basically that controls your EFI system, your electronics. And this here, it does have a plastic cover on it. Some parts are metal, like that, some parts are plastic, so the shroud is not quite as robust. It also does have composite, well, I don't know, these might be metal. I've seen some of these that have composite valve covers. I'm not exactly sure what these are made out of. But, some of the components are a little cheaper. The dipstick as well. You've got the dipstick on this side over here, and the oil filter's on the opposite side. So, just something else to note. So now we're going to talk about, the final thing I wanted to mention is the Kohler. One plus for the Kohler is that Kohler uses hydraulic lifters for their valves. So there's actually a hydraulic lifter, such as in a car, that opens and closes, that pushes on the push rod to open and close your valve. So that means you don't have to do periodic valve adjustments. I don't know if this particular engine has that. I know that Kohler has done that in the past. Like I said, you can go onto their website and look up if they have it or not and see what their manual says for recommendations. But that is a plus of the Kohler. Now, the biggest thing, there's two other things that I will cover here, one of them being fuel consumption and one of them being reliability. Now, the biggest reason any of y'all would go ahead and get a fuel-injected engine over a carbureted engine is because of the fuel savings. Now, Joe and I ran these mowers for about 3.5 hours each, and I did have to put some fuel into each one of these mowers. However, I will say that the Kohler here, it did burn a little less fuel than the Kawasaki. Would you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, I would definitely agree that there was some fuel savings.
However, that being said, the fuel savings was not enough to justify getting the fuel injection and having to replace these expensive computer components when they do break. Which, as if anything, you guys know that, you know, on these mowers, no matter how good it is, they do break every now and then. So, there is fuel savings. It's not that much, but it was noticeable. And the second thing is reliability. So, when Joe was running this mower, he got out there on the front line, and he turned the key, and the mower let out this massive plume of white smoke. Right, Joe?
Right in my face, yes.
Yes, so it did it a couple times, and like I said, this machine has 30 hours on it, so there's really no excuse for this thing to be blowing smoke out of the muffler. And what I think is going on, guys, is either there's a little bit of gap between the rings and the cylinder, or there's a little bit of leakage from the valve seals, possibly, and it's causing some oil to get in there at startup. But there's really no excuse, guys. And this mower had about 30 hours on it when we got it, and it was about a half a quart low in oil, probably just from it burning off when you start the mower up. So I know Joe can attest to that, and he can also attest that this Kawasaki here never once put out any white smoke, and it seemed really reliable and smooth the entire time. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much what I've got as far as Kohler vs. Kawasaki. I'm not tearing these things down. We're not looking at the inside components. They're both made really well. They're both going to run a long time if you take care of them. But for power delivery, the Kawasaki engine is just a smoother engine, and it's a little more reliable. And getting carbureted parts are always cheaper than getting computer parts. So if you guys missed anything, if you guys noticed that I missed anything, please leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer those questions for you. Joe, do you have anything else to say?
My only thing to say is I've used that exact EFI over there before, and I've used this exact Kawasaki before. I've worked for a couple landscape companies in the past. Those videos are on my channel if you're interested in that. But I used that EFI over there when I was working for a company called Landscape, and that was on a 60-inch turf tracer. And while the power was just amazing and great and cut through thick grass like nothing, whenever we would start it up in the morning, the white plume of smoke would happen, and you know, we're inside an enclosed trailer, so that's never fun. And this happened a little bit while we were using this, but it would rev up and down at idle.
Yeah, what would happen, guys, is we start these things at idle when they're hot, you know, with the thing all the way down, and then after you start it, you then pull the throttle up, and on the Kawasaki it would rev right up, run smooth, no problems. Over here on the Kohler, we would do the same thing, and you know, you turn the key, there is no choke because it is fuel injected. You turn the key, you push the throttle up, and this thing would surge like there was carburetor problems, but there is no carburetor. So, I'm not sure what it was doing there, trying to self-learn or anything, but I don't really know.
And the weird thing is that the turf tracer that I used a couple years ago was the exact same way. It did the exact same thing, and we were engaging the blades at half throttle, and when we would push it up, it would do that again, so it's just weird. I've used Kawasaki on walk-behinds, on zero turns, now on standards, and I've never had a bad experience with Kawasaki. I've been always really happy with the engine. It just seems like whenever I use Kohler products, it's a lot of power, but it never seems like the engine is wilting. That's just my personal experience.
Yep, and I couldn't agree more, guys. I've been a on and off small engine mechanic for myself for many years. I've won awards both in high school and in college on doing small engine repairs, so I have a pretty good amount of experience dealing with these kind of things. And I'll let you guys know hands down that Joe and I definitely agree that Kawasaki is the way to go. They have the best engine in the market right now, so keep them in mind for your next mower purchase. If you guys have any other questions, any other comments, don't leave any hateful comments, guys. I really don't like dealing with that stuff. I don't hate on your stuff, so please don't hate on mine. And thanks for watching the video, and we will see y'all in the next one.